and welcome to our What Sold video for the week of December 3rd through 9th. If you're new here, my name is Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at places like garage sales, thrift stores, anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Quick background information. Most of our sales are done with free shipping, not always, but the price that you hear me say will be the price of the item that it's sold for plus the shipping. So you can see on screen usually if it says we included shipping with the item, but most of our items are sold through free shipping. Also, we do this part-time. We have other jobs and this is our side hustle. So the income that you see here is not all of the income that we're bringing into this household. It is just only what we've sold through our side hustle business reselling online. It would be awesome if we could turn this into a full-time gig, but we actually own another business that we don't anticipate selling anytime soon, and then my other job is a part-time job. So let's dive right in to what sold, and if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below. The first thing that we sold was a Dillard's trim setter bear from 2019. It was new with tags. We actually got 3 of these at the thrift store. 2 of them were like a larger bear and 1 of them was a smaller one. This is the second of the larger bears to sell. They didn't sell super fast, but that is kind of par for the course with plush. Plush just doesn't move super fast, but the fact that all 3 of these trim setter bears sold says that if we ever saw one in the wild again, we would likely pick it up. We had paid $2.50 for this at a thrift store, and it sold for our full asking price of $24.99. Next up was a pair of men's Rockport Adidas collab black leather fisherman sandals. These we got at the bins. We paid 68 cents for them and they took a really long time to sell, but we eventually sold them for $21.11. Not an item I would pick up again for sure. We did get positive feedback on them though, so that's good. Next up was a 2-piece lot of 1949 Peter Pan Records Unbreakable vinyl kids albums. One of them was cowboy songs and one of them was Christmas carols. We got these at an estate sale. I paid $4 in total for both of them and they sold for $20 even on best offer. Also, the other thing I'll mention is that all of these sales have taken place on eBay. So unless I specifically mention that they were sold on another platform, then they were sold on eBay. Next up was a Lion King original motion picture soundtrack. It was on cassette. This we got at the thrift store for 27 cents and it sold for $8.48. We do well with vintage kids cassettes, vintage kids VHS. Sometimes the profit isn't huge, but they sell fast and we can get them for really cheap at our thrift store, so we tend to pick them up. Anything that, we've paid 27 cents on this, and I don't know what our percentage of profit would be based on that cost of goods to the amount of profit that we made, but it's a lot. I mean, and it's just not that much work to list and ship these. Next up was a brand new pair of men's socks by a company called Two Left Feet Sock Company. Well, these were unisex socks. They were not men's, but they were orange and they had a sushi print all over them. I just thought they were cute and we only paid 25 cents for them at this garage sale, so that was worth picking up in my opinion, and they sold for $11.99. They did take a little while to sell, so, I would not have spent a lot on them. Next up was a vinyl record called Church Anthems by the Cadet Chapel Choir. This was the West Point Choir. We got this gifted to us to sell by a family member, so we had no cost, and it sold for $15.28 on offer to buyer. And I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I was having an issue with the eBay offer to buyer system. They had changed the way that you made offers on the mobile device, and I actually submitted a comment on that to the team that gets that information, and I'm sure was not based on my comments alone. I'm sure other people commented as well, but they did fix that. I was having an issue with sending offers the way I want to with a specific custom dollar amount, because we like to send all of our offers ending in the numeral 8 so that we can track that information better, and they did fix that. I can do it the way I used to do it, and I'm so happy about that. Next up was a Vintage Sports Car Club of America magazine from April 1961. It did have some wear on it. I think the cover was maybe disconnected from the magazine, so you'll see that it says read in the title. We got this in a big lot of race car books and programs and stuff like that, and that was at a garage sale. We paid 50 cents for it, and this sold for $12.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a really cute little Baby Gap leopard print fuzzy jacket, and it had a hood with little ears on it. It was really cute. We got this at a garage sale for $4. I picked it up because I thought it was cute. It did take forever to sell, probably not a good pickup, but sometimes things just enamor me. I can't help myself. But this sold for $26.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was two of the Precious Moments Sugartown Holiday Train replacement curve tracks. If you've seen any of our videos in the past, this was a purchase that we made. We sold this train 3 times and it was returned 3 times. It was just kind of a cursed item. To break that curse, we ended up parting the train out and sold like the different train cars and the tracks separately, and now we're finally making money on this item and getting rid of it. This was purchased at an estate sale. Our out-of-pocket cost on this item, with our cost of goods plus all of our original listing costs and shipping costs and stuff like that from all the other ones, was $4.20. And these tracks sold for $24.99, and so that made for a nice little profit. And this is like the 3rd or 4th part of that train that we've sold, and we still have several things to go. So that was definitely the way to go on this item. I wish we had learned our lesson after the 1st or 2nd return. Next up was a vintage OEM Kirby vacuum cleaner, retracting brush, attachment, and elbow. We found this in the Goodwill bins for $1.03, and it sold for $17 on best offer. Not tons of profit on that item, and it was kind of a pain to ship, so I don't know if we would pick that up again. Next up was a 2016 Mattel Monster High Pop Art Ghouls Laguna Blue doll. She was wearing the wrong clothes, and the clothes that she was wearing I think were damaged. You'll see it says wrong clothes, read in the title. Like I've mentioned before, we always try to include as much information as there is room for about the defects right in the title, because a lot of people barely read the listing. So you want to get as much information across right in the title as possible. This we found at a thrift store in a thrift store doll bag, and we had paid $2.70 for it. It sold for $14.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a Harry Potter Polish version. It was written in Polish of the book Philosopher's Stone. It was hardcover. We found a bunch of Harry Potter books in all different languages at the thrift store, and a lot of those have been very, very valuable. This one we paid $5.98 for, and it sold for $67.48 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage 1981 Dakin brand Garfield Christmas stocking stuffed animal. We got this at the church rummage sale that we most recently went to. We paid $2 for it, and this sold for $29.99. That was our full asking price. It sold fast. Of course, we listed it right before Christmas, so that might have been something that helped that item sell faster. Next up was a Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe Xbox 360 game. It was complete in the box. We tested it and it worked. We got that at a garage sale for $2, and it sold for $11.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a women's size extra small pair of Hello Kitty Halloween sleep pants. These were new without tags. They were new like in the original packaging that they came from, but they were like a mail order kind of thing, so they didn't have any like hang tags or anything, so that's why it says new without tags. We got these gifted to us to sell from a family member, so we didn't have any cost, and they sold for $10 even on best offer. Next up was a New Testament in modern English and Japanese. It was from 1972. We got this at the thrift store and we paid just 51 cents for that. It sold pretty fast for $19.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a 1987 to 93 Chilton's Ford full-size truck repair manual. We got this at a thrift store for $1.08 and it sold for $19.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a pair of women's Vince Camuto brown suede loafer heels with tassels on them. We got these at a flea market for $3 and they sold for $29.68 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage pair of Barbie cowboy boots. These were brown. These we got at a garage sale for 50 cents and they sold for $15.99. Next up was it was branded Beatles and it was a men's extra large cabbie or newsboy style cap. It was from 2008. We got this at the church rummage sale and we paid $2 for it. It sold for $22.99. Next up was a set of 2 green plastic holiday Christmas coffee hot drink tumblers. They both had lids. They were new, unused. We got this from a local Facebook group where it's like a buy, sell, trade kind of Facebook group. I had purchased these along with a set of Starbucks mugs, and the Starbucks mugs is why I was actually making the purchase, so those sold a long time ago and I still have these. These took literally forever to sell. I would not pick these up individually on their own. I only have them because we wanted those Starbucks mugs. So this is not something I would recommend picking up. We had paid $2.50 for these and they sold for $10 even, and that was a best offer. Next up was a lot of 2 Simpsons action figures. It included a 1990 Lisa playing the saxophone and a 2016 Bart on a skateboard. We got these at a garage sale for 75 cents and they sold for $18 even on best offer. Next up was a Simplicity scrub top and pant uncut sewing pattern. We got this gifted to us to sell by a family member, so we had no cost and it sold for $8.48 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage Fenton white hobnail milk glass lidded oval butter dish. We got this at the church rummage sale. We paid $2 for it and it sold for $31.98 and that was on offer to buyer. Next up was a 1951 cookbook called The Settlement Cookbook by Mrs. Simon Candor. And it said on the cover, like, the way to a man's heart or something. I don't know, I just thought it was funny. We got this at a garage sale for $1 and it sold really fast for $35.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a really cool lot of 2 1940s and 50s. I couldn't tell exactly when they were from, but they were from around that time. These were Dr. Pepper soda advertising ceramic doorknobs. They were really cool. We found them at this garage sale where we found a bunch of vintage stuff and some of their prices were a little bit high, but these he sold to us for just $5. And so I didn't even comp them. I knew that they would be worth $5 and they were worth a lot more than that. We sold those on auction for $142.50. And so that was a really good pickup. Next up was a knitting board zippy loom project scarf pattern book. We picked up a whole bunch of these at the Goodwill bins and it's just been one of those things that's such a good pickup because you can just do it as a quantity listing and they sell every now and again and it's just easy. I love quantity listings like this. We paid 61 cents for this item and it sold for $9.99. So not like tons of profit on each individual book, but when you look at that as a whole, it was just a single listing. It was a really good deal. Next up was a men's George brand adjustable size black and white check bow tie. We got this from a clothing purchase that we made off of Facebook Marketplace. We bought like 6 garbage bags of clothes for like $50 for all of them. It was such a good deal. We sold most of the good stuff, but we do still have a few sales every now and then from that bag. This we paid 67 cents for and it sold for $10.99 for our full asking price. Next up was a remnant piece of fabric. It was white sheer, kind of a mesh with a silver sparkle on it, and it had little micro dots on it as well. This was something that I had from a project that I did a long time ago, and I did not need this fabric anymore, so I decided to sell it. I had no cost because it was just a remnant, and it sold for $7.50. Very little profit on that, but you know, when you already own it, sometimes it's just worth listing it, in my opinion. Next up was a vintage American Tourister Escort brown faux leather small hard suitcase. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $70 even on best offer. Next up was a lot of 5 Littlest Pet Shop and similar figurines. I think all of them except for one maybe were Littlest Pet Shop. But I didn't want to, I wanted to be very clear in the title because somebody would complain about that. We got this out of a thrift store toy bag, and we paid 22 cents for them, and they sold for $19.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a lot of 3 Thomas & Friends DVDs. We found these at a different church rummage sale, one that we went to a while ago. This was from the sale where we got all of the photography equipment. This we paid $1 for, and they sold for $14 even on best offer. Next up was the brand was 1901, and it was a girls large Mary Sparkle holiday sweater new with tags. We got this at a garage sale. We paid $2.25 for it, and it sold for $20 even on best offer. Next up was a lot of 2 Chipmunks cassettes. It included sing-alongs, and in low places, that was country music. We tested them and they worked. Those came from a thrift store. We paid 54 cents for them, and they sold for $12.68. Next up was one of the replacement toner cartridges that I got from the toner liquidation purchase that I made. These were all off-brand toner cartridges, but sometimes we make a lot of money on the sales and sometimes just not much, but I think we've made all of our money back on that purchase as a whole, so pretty much everything that we sell from that purchase is just gravy. This one was an Idea USA for a Brother printer. This we paid $3.19 for, and it sold for $15 even on best offer. Next up was a lot of 3 Scotch brand vintage magnetic audio cassette tapes. They were used. They had something recorded on them. I don't know what it was, but we did sell them as used. You see it says right in the title. Those we got from a garage sale for 50 cents, and they sold for $15 even on best offer. Next up was a Dr. Seuss The Grinch Christmas Holiday Family Pajama Set. This was a men's size 2X. They were new in the package. We bought several of these at a garage sale, and this is the first pair to sell. We paid $5 for these, and they sold for $24.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a Canon PowerShot Blue Digital Camera with a case. We got this at an estate sale for $5, and it sold for $99.99. That was really good because this was untested. We didn't have the battery pack or anything like that for it, but Canon PowerShot specifically do really well for us, and I love picking up any old cameras. You can make a lot of money on those. Next up was a lot of 4 banned Dr. Seuss books. The books were actually banned. I mean, banned is I just don't know if it's the right word, but basically the Dr. Seuss estate decided to no longer publish these books. They're not publishing 6 of Dr. Seuss's books for sale as new books anymore. So that's pretty much what we mean when we say banned. So this was 4 of the Dr. Seuss books that are commonly referred to as banned. We paid $2 for these at a garage sale. We bought them with another big lot of Dr. Seuss books that we have listed separately, but these 4 sold on Mercari for $175. Just a quick note, you cannot sell the banned Dr. Seuss books on eBay because eBay is respecting the wishes of the Dr. Seuss estate and not allowing the sales of those on there, but I did do research and could not find anywhere that it was not allowed on Mercari. So, I mean, it was a little bit risky because I thought maybe the listing would get taken down, but ultimately it ended up going through, and I haven't had any issues with it. So that is how we decided to do that. Next up, I'll go over all of the collectible cards that sold from my husband's personal collection. This week We sold 5 cards in total for a total dollar amount of $15.41. And all of those were sold on eBay. And now let's go over all of the totals for the week. This week we sold 43 items for an average sale price of $27.53. Our sales totaled $1,183.76 for a net profit of $711.77. So that wraps up everything for the week of December 3rd through 9th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by hitting the thumbs up button. And if you're not already subscribed and you've made it this far in the video, that probably means that you enjoyed this content. So we would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. That way you can be kept informed of all of our future content. Thanks again for joining, and we will catch you on the flip side.